Hey everyone, this is Dr. Nat and Mama Val coming to you with our life nuggets. And today we're going to be talking about a topic that really stemmed from some of the conversations we were having from the Clark Sisters movie that aired probably about a month ago now. And so we're going to be talking about parenting in Pentecost. So before we get started, Mama Val, just tell me a little bit about how your Mother's Day has been going.
Well, it's a Mother's Day that we've not seen before, but amidst all of what's happening in the world, I'm blessed. I can't complain. I'm happy to be a mother, and I'm happy to see you. So overall, it's okay.
I see quarantine and shelter in place did not stop you from putting on some great makeup, making sure that hair is laid, still
Yeah.
looking fly as ever.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, one of the things that I've learned, even in the midst of this, is we've got to show up, dress up, get up, and keep it moving as much as possible. Now, when I say keep it moving, practice our physical distancing. But yeah.
Yeah. So the Clark Sisters movie aired about a month ago, and you and I have had several conversations about our observations, our reflections about the movie. I know myself personally did a couple of videos that I posted on Facebook about my own reactions. But the movie, I think, really caused us to have a lot of different conversations, even about our own relationship as mother and daughter.
Yeah.
And it was actually from those conversations and observations that I think you or I had the idea about this would be great to record this conversation and post it and kind of see what people think, if it resonates with people, what questions people have, and so on and so forth. And so one of the things that really struck me about the movie is, or one of the main themes in the movie was just the parenting dynamics or the mother-daughter relationship between Dr. Maddie Moss Clark and her daughters.
Yeah.
In terms of how she really socialized them to pursue her dream, their dream, as the best gospel group out there, right? And she was all about perfection, all about excellence. And it really, I think, also raised this question about how much do parents sort of push their children to go in a particular path versus allow their child to cultivate their own path. And just for folks who are watching who aren't as familiar with us, you were definitely the kind of parent who allowed me to find my own way, to chart my own path. I remember coming home my senior year of high school and telling you that I had gotten accepted to the University of Dallas and I was going to be moving to Dallas once I graduated. And for me, it was no question, right, that I wanted to move halfway across the country and didn't feel like I was going to have to beg you or get your permission to do so, but that you would be supportive of that. And that has been, I don't know how many years ago now, and I haven't turned back. And so you really were the kind of parent who allowed me to find my own way. And so I'm curious for you if you saw yourself at all in Dr. Maddie Moss Clark parenting style.
No, I didn't. I did not see myself in her parenting style. However, I did see her style very similar to my own parents. So no, and I actually purposed to do something different. Let's say that.
Say a little bit about your parent style. So similar to the Clark daughters, you were raised in a strict Pentecostal household. So tell me about how your parents parented you.
Yeah. So my parents parented me a lot like the traditional um, Pentecostal or uh, spirit-led church. Very similar to Dr. Maddie Moss Clark. And again, this is not to say that. So they worked with what they had. For me, that I wanted to do something different. And so when I think about that, and what really prompted me about that is because I think about my experience growing up, living and growing up in the Central Valley. Um,
In Central Valley of
in
California?
the Central Valley of California, yeah. I think about how I made the decision that I wanted to stay in the Central Valley and go to college. And when I told my parents that, um, they it did not go well. Let's just say that it did not go well because it felt like a betrayal. It felt like we're leaving and you're going with us. I've actually felt like I had no voice. And as a matter of fact, some of my parents' friends and some of the saints really ostracized my dad and my parents and ostracized me because I was choosing to stay. And when I think about the Clark sisters movie, um, and the dreams that they had, it really essentially became their mother's dream. That's fine. I'm not knocking that. That's not what this is for. But I definitely wanted to encourage you to follow your own path. And with me saying that I wanted to stay and go to college and follow my path, it really caused a lot of conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And really, quite frankly, if it hadn't been for the Lord and for having some other elders around me that really supported me and really saw something, I believe my life would have taken a different turn.
Why do you think it was perceived as a betrayal, you wanting to stay in the Central Valley and to go to college there?
Yeah, I felt that it felt like it was a betrayal because it was like I was going against my parents.
Mm.
I was going against my parents. I was being rebellious. I felt that sometimes I didn't have a voice. And I really want to kind of elaborate on that because when I think about that old mindset of children aren't to be heard or seen, I did not want that for you because at that time I felt like I didn't have a voice. And the thing about it is when you think about growing up and being raised in the church, I felt the Lord had said to me that it was okay for me to stay. It was his will for me to stay and go to college. I was going to be surrounded by uh, 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 elders and leaders and the bishop there and the church there that would continue to foster my spiritual development. However, again, you had the mindset is you're going against the family.
Mm.
You're being rebellious. You're not in the will of God.
Mm. So
So
even though you felt like God had directed you to stay, your dad had told you to go,
absolutely.
you were forced to choose.
I was forced to choose. Yeah.
And the fact that you even thought you had a choice was upsetting to your parents.
Absolutely. 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 So when I look at that, when it came to you saying to me what God had told you and what you were going to do and what you felt led to do, it wasn't it wasn't an easy decision for me because Yeah, because I had purpose. I did not, I did not want you to be afraid to soar and to
Mhm.
be yourself and to follow your purpose and your path.
Mhm. Why do you think your family's friends gave them such a hard time? Well, let me say this. I know generationally,
Yeah.
it wasn't common for kids, especially daughters, to chart their own path, right? You kind of went along with whatever your parents say and sort of lived with your parents until you got married. I understand those generational things. But why do you think your parents' friends gave them such a hard time about their daughter going rogue or being rebellious?
Because again, I think it's that mindset. You know, they felt like uh, that and during that time that kids really didn't have a choice.
Mhm.
They didn't have a voice. And you did what your parents said. Um, and anything different was disobedient,
Mhm.
was disrespectful, was out of the will of God,
Mm.
and was really uh, almost blasphemous.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I wonder to what extent, too, they came for especially your dad's masculinity, his leadership skills, because he couldn't keep his daughter in check.
Absolutely. And when you think of that, because it says a ministry begins at home.
Mm.
So if you can't control your daughter, if you can, and she's taking a stand respectfully to stay and follow what she feels God is telling her, or even that child, that young person, feel that God is telling them and directing them a certain way, that God can't be talking to them. And so there, it was a question. It questioned his leadership. It questioned his spirituality. It questioned, you're not ruling your household,
Mm.
which I feel has been a detriment to a lot of young people and people my age.
Mhm. So I know you said your experiences undoubtedly shaped your parenting. In some ways, you almost decided that you didn't want to do what your parents had did with this regard, right? Not that there weren't other things that you took away and said, I want to do those things, but this particularly, you knew that you wanted to cultivate a daughter who was free thinking, who was autonomous, who had a sense of choice. And so, when did that really start? Because I know I didn't come home at 18 and decide I was just moving to Dallas,
Yeah.
right? The fact that I was able to come home and the fact that I was able to feel comfortable doing that, it's because of seeds planted while I was growing up. And so for you, I'm curious about when did that really start? When did you start instilling that in me?
I started before you were born. I had purposed that because of what I had went through, when I did have a child, that was not going to be your experience, and I was going to choose to do something differently. So as a result of that, at an early age, at 2, at 4, at 6, at 7, at 12, it was making sure that you understood that you were heard, that you were seen, and that you can make choices. Now, doesn't mean that as parents we don't guide and we don't foster and we don't mentor, but allowing our children to find their way, allowing them to explore possibilities. When I think of even some of the academic things that we put you in, whether it was karate or piano lessons, or scholars programs, and even when it came to ministry, as a liturgical dancer, a praise dancer, someone who developed and wrote skits, allowing you to have the freedom to be who God was shaping you and leading you to be.
And I always felt growing up that that was valued,
Exactly.
right? Like not only could I be heard, but what I had to say would be listened to.
Absolutely.
And I know you often talk about, the experience when I was a baby and the baby blessing, and how that was such a significant moment for you. Because if you think about, particularly in Pentecostal churches, how the baby blessing goes, it really is a blessing and a prayer over the child and a rededication of the child back to the Lord. And so that kind of setup for you already, I think, shaped your expectations to view yourself as an instrument or a vehicle to sort of guide me in my own path, as opposed to, I don't know, my controller or warden, so to speak.
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah. You know, and it's so interesting. Even when I look at the movie, The Lion King, which is one of my favorite movies, and 2 years later, say after that movie was written and produced and aired, to see the blessing when the father blessed Simba, and that was, little did I know that was when we had your baby blessing. It was God. Our children are a gift, and I really want to focus on this. Children are a gift. You are a gift. uh, um, uh, Children are not property. We don't own them. God, and so I saw myself as the vessel that God used for you to come forth into the earth. And so for that baby blessing was to give you back to God, so he could lead you and guide you into your purpose. And even when I think about, even from a parenting standpoint, a lot of times, or even thinking of in the church in Pentecost, this holds true when it comes to feeling that we have to control and manipulate and dominate our children. Sometimes, leaders and bishops and pastors and apostles, and the titles go on and on. We feel like we have to, that our parishioners, and the people that we shepherd, belong to us. No, they don't belong to us. They are God. These are God's people. And the same thing with our children. Children are people. And so what we're here to do is lead and guide and mentor and foster. And if they get off track, then we help get them back on. I'm not saying to where we allow children to disrespect, but we allow them the freedom to think, and to explore and to ask questions.
Mhm. And if I had to sum up my childhood, I would definitely say structured freedom. It was balanced, right? Like I
Yeah,
was going to be out here and just be able to do whatever I wanted to do when I wanted to do it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You
But
had a
then
curfew. You had
yeah,
a
oh, I had a
curfew.
curfew and a bedtime. Yeah,
Absolutely.
until I left the house, I had a
Right.
bedtime. But that was a blessing too, because that's why my sleep schedule is so good now. And, I there was structure and there was freedom. Right.
Right.
And so it felt like a really healthy balance. And it sounds like for you that being able to parent in that way was an intentional choice,
Yeah,
and a choice that required healing on your part,
exactly.
required some reflection about what worked and didn't work and how you were parented, and having to do the hard work of to do something different. Whereas I imagine a lot of people just recapitulate how they were parented.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And and this it and one of the things that I say, and you and I have talked about, Nat, is, parenting is hard work. Yeah, there's books, there's talk shows. I mean, there's things that we can read about it, but a lot of times, most of the time, you don't know how it is until you get into it. And something that the parenting style that works for one child may not work for the other.
Yeah.
But it's learning this child and learning your children. Okay, this style works for this one. This other approach works for the other one. And paying attention and really asking God for his wisdom and for his knowledge. And that's one of the things that I had to do is, God, show me, direct me. There were times that I blew it. I feel as a parent, but I definitely feel that there was always the premise that I did not want to stop you or block you from being great.
Mm.
So, and the thing is, I respected and trusted you. And that's one of the things that I feel when it comes to parents is often we want our children to respect us, but also we've got to respect our children. We've got to honor our children. They're people. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Um, as we're wrapping up here, I want to ask one last question in terms of
One?
what'd you say?
Only one?
Girl, you know we can keep talking.
Right.
Yeah, we got to give the people a little bit by little bit.
Right.
Um, so we've talked about sort of the benefits of parenting in this way, right? I think it has allowed for us to have a healthy, open mother-daughter relationship.
Yeah.
It's also allowed me the ability to thrive as an individual person. I would not be where I am and who I am if I had not had that structured freedom. And I'm sure that there have been some difficulties and hardships that have come with that, in terms of the fact that me charting my own path meant me leaving home at 18, moving to Dallas, being in Dallas for 4 years, then pursuing my PhD at the University of Illinois, and then me moving to Atlanta to do my residency at Emory, and now being a professor at Spelman. It has meant that we are literally, you know, we are separated by many, many states,
Yeah.
are separated by time zones. It has meant not being together on Mother's Days, on birthdays, on Thanksgivings and things of that nature. So how have you coped with or dealt with the downsides that come with having a child who's out there pursuing their own path?
It's difficult. It's really, just to be honest, I mean, it gets tough. There's times I wish you could jump on the plane. There's time I wish I could jump on a plane. But there's a cost for those things that really lead you to purpose and destiny. I mean, there's a sacrifice, but I look at the result of what you've been able to accomplish, and you work it out and you figure it out. I think about there's lots of people whose careers take them all over the world, and so when you do come back together, you make the most of it. You make the most of it. I mean, now you've got social media, you've got FaceTime, you've got Zoom, you've got all of those things. It is rough, and I do not want to invalidate that. And there's times that I cry, and times I feel lonely because you're not here. I miss our shopping sprees. I miss our deep conversations because I don't know, we can really go deep in some conversations. I miss you being my personal fashionista, helping me with my hair and makeup and helping me choose my outfits, and me and Valentino. So, all of those things are things that you sacrifice. But in the end, you're on schedule and you're on point and you're making your mark and you're following the path that God has for you.
Yeah. And who knows, we may get you back out here to Atlanta.
Who knows?
So I know I said I only had one more question, but let's go ahead and end it with another one. For parents who are watching this and want to know how to get started with raising a child in the way that you have, what advice, last words would you have for them?
I would encourage them to pray and seek the Lord for guidance, and talk to your children. Find out what their goals are. What do they want to do? And put them in, if you can, put them in various different activities to where their talents and abilities can be explored or fostered, and allow them to make mistakes. Okay. One of the things, when I think about the Clark sisters movie, it's we as parents can advise and pray, but ultimately, when our children get a certain age, the choices are theirs. We hope that they make the best one, and we lead them and guide them and bring them up in the various different values and beliefs that we have, and pray that they follow in the path. And if they do depart from it, that they'll come back to it. But ultimately, remember, when our children get a certain age, they make their own choices and their own decisions. And so to really, there's only so much we can do as parents: pray and advise. Yeah. And always love them. Always, always love them. Yeah. And I want to say this too. I think about, Nat, with you and I, there were some things that I wish I could have done differently. But one of the things that I feel that parents can do, even today, there are children that are hurting. There are children, there are grown folks who are hurting because of things of how they were raised and how they were injured. We're never too big to apologize to our children. So even a few weeks ago, I had to come back to you and say, Nat, if I did anything, if I made certain things seems like I was putting my will upon you, forgive me. It's okay for us as parents to be vulnerable, to be transparent. We're not perfect. We make mistakes. Let our children see, I'm not perfect. I apologize. I'm sorry. And then it won't be so easy for them to say, Mom, Dad, I'm sorry, forgive me. But yeah, I think as parents, we've got to own up for things that we may have done and parts we may have played that could have hindered or stopped or even impeded our children's destiny and purpose.
Mama Val, I just love talking to you.
I
Wasn't this
know
so much
you
fun?
love your mother.
Wasn't this so much fun?
It was so much fun now.
That just means we're going to have to do this again.
Yes, we are.
So as we close, how about you take us out with a prayer or blessing for parents, however you want to flow.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to say happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers, and for parents who are listening, and those and people who one day want to be parents. I speak a special blessing over you of encouragement, and that God will bless you, that he will help you, that he will direct you, and that we recognize that our children are a gift. They are a gift They don't belong to us. They're not property. And we can really help shape. You can help shape your children's destiny, their purpose. And so I pray for you, and especially even during these times, that God will help us all, that He'll lead. I know the pressures are heavy. Parents are homeschooling kids. You're trying to work, or you're looking for a job. You're just trying to keep things together. And I'm praying that God will bless you, that God will give you strength. If you need to take a walk, if you need to go in the restroom and just breathe, if you need to just pull your children around you and say, let's pray, you know, mommy's just feeling a little overwhelmed, dad's just feeling a little overwhelmed, do that. Be honest. But God knows what He's doing in this situation. You are going to be all right. We are going to be all right. And so I'm believing in you. I'm trusting in you. We are going to get through this. And you know what? We're going to come out of this. We're coming out of this. We're coming out of this victorious. We're coming out of this. We're coming out of this with some lessons learned. Yeah.
On that note, thank you so much for joining Life Nuggets with Dr. Nat and Mama Val, our inaugural conversation on parenting in Pentecost. I love you, Mama.
I love you too, boo. Mwah.